Count how many words you used the last time you said no to someone. Go on. Think of the actual message, or the actual conversation. 50? 100? Did you lead with sorry? Did you give them a reason? Then a backup reason? Then check to make sure they weren't upset about the reason you gave. Did you end up almost talking yourself back into yes? Here's what nobody tells you about over-explaining a no. Every reason you give is a door they can push on. You say you're busy, they offer to reschedule. You say you're tired, they say it'll only be an hour. You say you can't afford it, they say they'll cover you. You built them a path in, and now you're standing there trying to block it. This video is about why you feel like you need to explain yourself when you say no, where that comes from, what it's costing you, and how to stop. Not because being blunt is a virtue, but because over-explaining is eroding something in you every single time you do it. And I want to show you exactly what that erosion looks like. The over-explanation isn't random. It's not bad communication habits or social awkwardness. It's a specific belief doing specific work. The belief goes like this: my no, on its own, is not enough. It requires justification to be acceptable. If I can't prove my reason is good enough, the rejection of the request will be read as rejection of the person. And that belief, somewhere in your history, was accurate. Psychologist Susan Ford, in her foundational work Emotional Blackmail, identified a pattern she called FOG: fear, obligation, and guilt. She describes how, in environments where saying no was met with emotional consequence, anger, withdrawal, disappointment performed at high volume, children learn to preemptively manage that consequence. You don't wait for the fallout, you explain before it can happen. You build the case before you're cross-examined. It was smart, it was adaptive. In a home where no triggered a storm, preloading your explanation was how you minimized damage. The problem is you're still doing it, in a coffee shop, in a work Slack, in a text to a friend who is not your parent and whose disappointment carries no real power over your safety. The context changed, the reflex didn't. And here's where it gets quietly damaging, because every time you over-explain, you're reinforcing the belief that your no requires permission. You're telling your nervous system, I was right. A plain no isn't safe, I need to earn this. The more you do it, the more convinced your body becomes that bare refusal is a form of violence against the relationship. It isn't, but you have to stop performing the explanation before you'll start to actually believe that. When you receive an over-explanation, when someone says no to you and immediately floods you with reasons, what does it signal? It signals that they think they need your approval, that the relationship is structured such that your opinion of their no matters enough to perform for. Which means, and this is the uncomfortable part, a long explanation doesn't just apologize for the no. It hands power to the person you're saying it to. A 2012 study in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found something that sounds counterintuitive: requests framed as identity claims. I'm not someone who does that versus I don't want to do that are significantly harder to push back on than requests accompanied by reasons. The reason-based refusal opens a negotiation. The identity-based refusal closes one. Because there's nothing to argue with, you can challenge someone's reason. You can't challenge someone's sense of themselves. There's also a social dynamics piece to this that most people haven't thought about. When you over-explain, you're asking the other person to co-sign your decision. You want them to say, oh yes, that's a valid reason, your no is approved. Which means you need their cooperation to feel okay about your own choice. That's a dependency. And it's exhausting to maintain, because their reaction is now load-bearing for your sense of whether you did the right thing. There's a specific thing happening neurologically when you feel the pull to explain yourself. The anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, is involved in what neuroscientists call conflict monitoring. It fires when your behavior is in tension with an internal rule. When you're about to say no and your nervous system holds a rule that says no requires justification, the ACC registers that as conflict. and you've just reinforced the rule. But here's the research that changes everything. In 2006, Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA published work on affect labeling. His research showed that simply labeling what you're experiencing activates the prefrontal cortex and simultaneously dampens amygdala activity. In plain English, naming the discomfort short-circuits the threat response. You don't have to resolve the discomfort by giving in to it. You can interrupt it by naming it. What that looks like in practice: the moment you feel the urge to explain, you say to yourself, internally, that's the justification reflex. My ACC flagging conflict with an old rule. You don't have to feel calm, you just have to not act on it. And every time you hold the no without the explanation, you're weakening the old rule. The discomfort will be shorter next time, and shorter again after that. That's not a metaphor, that's neural pathway attenuation. It's measurable, it's real. Okay, here's the practical part. First, the shorter the no, the more powerful it reads. Not cold, short. There's a difference. No, I can't make that work is complete. No, that doesn't work for me is complete. I'm going to sit this one out as complete. Notice, none of those contain a reason. None of them leave a door open, and none of them are unkind. Second, if you feel the explanation rising in your throat, and you will, acknowledge it to yourself, and make the conscious decision not to send it. Third, get comfortable with silence after the no. The other person might pause. Let them. Their processing time is not an invitation to fill the space with justifications. The silence is not evidence you did something wrong. It's just silence. Fourth, you are allowed to be warm and say no without explaining yourself at the same time. These are not in conflict. I love you and I can't make it. I appreciate you thinking of me. And I'm out. Warmth without justification. Connection without permission seeking. And fifth, brace for the first few times being harder than you expect. You'll send the shirt no and wait for it to feel okay, and it won't feel okay immediately. But here's what will happen. Nothing catastrophic. The relationship will survive. The person will adjust. And after enough repetitions of nothing catastrophic, your nervous system will start to update. The first time you say no without explaining yourself, it's going to feel wrong. Your body is going to tell you that you are rude, that you hurt them, that you owe more than that. Your body is going to be working from an old ledger. You don't owe an explanation for having limits. You don't owe a performance of guilt to prove that declining cost you something. You don't owe anyone access to your reasoning just because they asked. A no is a complete sentence. You've heard that. But hearing it and feeling it in your chest as true, that's different. What I can tell you is that the people worth keeping in your life will not require you to defend your choices. And the ones who push on every reason you give, they've been showing you something about themselves this whole time. Let that be enough. If this one landed differently than you expected, leave it in the comments, stay detached.